Yesterday, Lord Krishna told to Arjun in yesterday's sitting when we were talking. So, Lord Krishna was telling to Arjun that once you attain the self, you no longer need Vedas or any text. You don't need any textbook, you don't need to read any shlok, verses, or any book. So, naturally, the next question, see, he is a curious soul. Yeah, Arjun is a very curious soul. So the natural next question that arises to him is what we are starting our session today. So he asks, O Keshava, what is the mark of a person who is steadfast wisdom, who realizes God? So the next question he says is, Krishna is saying those who realize self, they don't need any textbook. So Arjun asks, what are the qualities of this person? What is the quality of a sthit pragya purush? Sthit pragya means who is still. It doesn't mean it is very fakely renowned in this world. Still means no emotions. No. Please, this is wrong spirituality. If a saint is sitting like this still face, it means nothing. He has no joy to express in this world. There's no, you have to express. There are tears also, there is sometimes anger also. This is wrong spirituality. The Sthit Pragya Purush means the stillness is what we're going to talk about today. Krishna is going to explain qualities of an enlightened soul, how the enlightened soul looks like, feels like. Because from the outside, you can never know. Outside, anyone can say, I'm a Jnani. There's no test. My dear angels, no one can tell. It's only on the inside, it's between God and you. That's it. Rest all is fake. Nobody knows when is their last birth. Nobody knows when was their first birth. The beauty of this is it is the unknown. That is the beauty. God, Brahman, Brahma, Atma, that, all these things. The beauty is it's infinite. You can never know it. It's infinite. So those who claim they know it, they don't know it yet. Okay? First, you should understand this. No one can know this. So, Krishna is asking, how does such a man with firm wisdom speak, sit, and how does he walk? He's talking like a normal person. How does it look? How does he walk? How does he behave? Now, Krishna, God is answering. He says, O Parth, my friend Arjun, when a man discards all his desires, visiting the mind, and is self satisfied in own self, discard all the desires in the mind. He never say outside. Please listen to the gyan clearly. People apply this wrong. Okay, he says discard all his desires, visiting the mind. He never said discard everything from your house. No, no such thing is written here. Okay, it's very important. You get enlightened, you can get right now wherever you are. You don't have to leave anything. You're already there. So a man who achieves self-realization, who attains this, he discards all desires from his mind. He's self-satisfied. He's content. Whatever he has, he's content. He's happy with it. He's able to be stable in this wisdom. He's not crying over things he doesn't have. That's one of the first qualities. We will cover all of them. We have a lot of shloks today to cover. He whose mind remains unperverted in sorrow, who does not crave for pleasure, and who is free from passion, fear, anger, and is called a sage with stable wisdom. So, sorrow doesn't enter his mind. only explaining. Please, Arjun is asking, how does the person sit, walk, and I think he said move or something. Arjun's question, listen, Arjun question is what and what is Krishna answering? Arjun question was, how does such a man speak, sit and walk? He's talking in terms of body. Yeah. And how Krishna is answering? He's answering in terms of mind. Sit, walk and eat, speak. And Krishna is saying his mind is full. He discards the desires. He is self-satisfied. Then he says he doesn't let sorrow enter his mind. Not talking about speak, sit or walk. No body things. He's talking about only mind. Yeah. So doesn't enter, and he's free from passion, fear and anger. See, fear and anger people understand, but he's also free from passion. Passion is something that drives everyone in this world. You are born, it is feeded inside of you. See how society feed things in you. They feed you, you need to have a purpose of life. This is what is told to you, right? When you're born, what you're going to do when you grow up, what you will be. You are feeded a purpose of life. If you don't have, you're unsuccessful. Also this, if you don't have a purpose, you're unsuccessful based on society. But reality, there's no such thing. There's no such thing as purpose of life. Life alone is there just to experience, just to enjoy, to see, know who you are. And once you know who you are, you don't need to do anything. That's why he's saying you're free from passion. Passion makes you chase things. People are passionate about spirituality also. They want to chase, moksha, enlightenment, which I cleared yesterday and day before yesterday, that moksha also is fake. There's no such thing. You're already there. When you're there, then what you're searching? No way, no passion is required. No fear, no anger. When this happens, when you realize, the moment you realize you are not this body, you're not this mind, you're not this intellect, this is a journey, you're here for a small period of time. People you're meeting are your karmic connections. They are coming in your life as a form of a transaction. For some people you did good, so they are giving good back to you. For some people you did bad, so bad things are coming from them. Rest all is just to experience. You're just given a human body to experience it. Once you realize, you will love everyone. Every soul you meet, either good or bad, no matter how their nature is, you will love them because they are the creation of God. We go to temples, we bow down to deities created by human beings. Who created these deities? Who created this Shiva's Murti, this Murti? Murti created by humans, right? But God created humans. We disrespect humans which were created by God. And we respect things that are created by man. This is very deep. You bow down to things that are created by you, society, norms, culture, rules, politics, money, all this created by man. You bow down to these things. God created human beings. We disrespect them. We don't value human beings. We don't value human life. Then how do you think anything will good happen in our life? You go outside, whole day you feed 100 people, 200 people. You give food to 1,000 homeless people. But when you come back at home and someone in your family asks for food and you say, get lost. That is karma being made, my angels. Outside, you will go and feed people on the road, but in your house, you disrespect everyone. In your house, you're disrespecting people, but outside, you go and respect everyone. This is how we live. And those people in your house are your biggest karma. Those people in your house, you had to give them the most love to clear your karmic accounts. So, a mind without passion, fear, and anger is stable in wisdom. That's what Krishna is saying. He who remains unattached under all conditions, he who is neither delighted at a good or dejected with evil, is stable in wisdom. A person, if given lot of luxury, lot of good things, he's still stable. And a person who has nothing is still stable. That is a quality of an enlightened soul. He doesn't get affected by the materialistic things. It doesn't mean he has to leave them. He doesn't have to leave materialistic things. He can still own a Mercedes, a BMW, a Bugatti Veyron. He can own these things, just not get attached. If today you have $1 million palace and tomorrow you don't have it, you are okay in both conditions. You are stable. How we do wrong in this? We think when we come to spirituality, we are stable. I don't get attached. The point is, you haven't even gotten attached. To get detached, you need to first attach to something. First, need to attach, then only you can get detached. A lot of people say that I don't feel anything when someone is, crying in front of me. That is a very bad sign in spirituality. You are not even born as a spiritual person. If someone is crying in front of you, you should feel the pain, have the compassion for them. You should care for them. You should give them love. But people think spirituality means, oh, I am balanced. I don't, get disturbed. That is wrong. It's all wrong. So, a person who's neither delighted in good, neither dejected in evil, is stable and remains unattached under all conditions. What do you get attached to? Firstly, you get attached to this body, then you get attached to what this body owns, maybe a house, a car, clothes, phone, laptop, whatever this body owns, you get attached to. Then, relatives of this body, mother, father, husband, wife, children. Then, money, possession. These are the things you get attached to. It's a very small world. It's not a big world you have. You're not a billionaire. You don't own like multiple countries or something. You just have like one small house, maybe I don't know, 2-3 kilos of gold, some little bit things. That's all. Those things you are attached to. And Krishna is saying an enlightened soul remains unattached. Now you would ask, what is the problem in attachment? But everybody says you need to remain detached. Correct? What is the problem in attachment? Why cannot I be attached? I mean, it is my thing, right? I own this phone. Why I cannot get attached to it? Because if something happens to this phone, you do bad karmas. When you get attached to something, you will do anything and everything to keep it with you. Anything and everything to keep it with you. That is the problem. Getting attached is not alone the problem. you will do anything and everything to keep that with you is the problem. Then you will again go back in the karmic cycle, because you want this phone, you want this life, you want money, you want luxury, you want that husband, that wife. So you will do bad things to keep them in your life. Nowadays a lot of people are into astrology and all these things, and they what they do is, my husband's having an affair or my wife is having an affair, so they do all this totka and remedies to keep them with them, hurt the other person, like the third person in the picture, why they don't die, all these things you do because you are attached, you're trying to hurt another person. These all comes in bad karmas. And how this will come back, this might happen to your son or might happen to you in return. What you're doing to the third person, let's say your wife and your husband is having an affair, you want to hurt that girl. What if after 2 3 years the same thing happens to you or your children? Because karma will come back, you cannot control it. But when we are in aggression, when we are attached, our mind stop working, the wisdom is lost. In that moment, if you have good karma, someone will save you. If not, then you will end up doing the worst. So what is yours? First of all, please understand, my dear angels, what is yours will remain with you. What is not meant to be yours, don't fight for it unnecessarily. Don't fight for it. This is also what Krishna says to Karna. Karna fighting for kingdom and all these things. So Krishna is saying, what is yours, fighting for that is justified. But what you have no right over, you cannot fight. That is adharma. He gives example of mountain. If a mountain thinks that he owns the river, if a mountain thinks he owns the river, that I won't let it go from me, the river has to remain with me, then he's doing adharma, because sea has the right over river. Sea has the right over river. The river has to go and merge in the sea. Mountain has no right, so he has to let it pass. Same is the case in your life. Things things that are yours, they will be with you no matter what. No matter what happens, they will stay in your life. There are people who are having abusive relationship for years and years, trying to get out of it but still cannot, because that's the karma they have together. So what is yours, no one can steal it. But what you don't have any right over, just let it go. Don't get attached. That is the whole point of don't get attached. This is how you practically apply this. Now, when like a tortoise withdrawing his limbs from all sides, he detaches completely his senses from the sense objects, his wisdom is stable. When in threat, what tortoise does is he brings all his sense organs in his shell, brings like this, removing his senses from the sense objects that he doesn't want to see, feel, or hear. Same is the case. This is the mind of an enlightened soul, not the body. It's not like he doesn't have to drink water, or he doesn't have to eat food, or he cannot have gulab jamun. Please, this is all wrong things, okay? If an enlightened soul is having a gulab jamun, you'll be like, oh, what kind of enlightened soul he is? He eats gulab jamun. This is wrong spirituality. Okay. On the inside, in the mind, he is He doesn't get attached to the senses. Whatever is happening to these things, like whatever he's seeing, eating, breathing, touching, it doesn't go inside. Inside, he remains pure. That's what it means. He is cut from this. If he sees some negative thing, for example, let's talk practically. I'm walking on the road and I see a man who is distorted, or who's abusing me. I walk on the road and someone starts abusing me. It doesn't mean I don't have to do self defense. I do self defense also. But on the mind, I am thinking God is in this form, maybe some old karma returning. No seeing other person as a body. Okay? No hate feeling for that person. I don't want to kill him also. Keeping that on the inside. On the outside, of course, if required, I will file a police complaint, I will have a restraining order, I will do all of those things on the outside. But inside, I have no hate feelings for the person. If he apologizes to me, I will understand. It's okay. This is how practically it works. What people think is, oh, today, if he's saying withdraw all the senses from the sense objects, means stop eating food, stop enjoying things, stop going out. That doesn't make any difference. Because controlling anything on the outside doesn't affect here. Here you still want things. Here you still want to go out, you still want to enjoy, still want to do party, still want to meet friends, have a boyfriend, have a girlfriend. Still here you want to do things. Outside you may stop it. When outside you stop, it's called suppression. It's wrong. Suppressing emotions is wrong. Suppressing feelings and desires is also wrong. It is against the self dharma. Whatever you want to do, you should do it. As long as it follows the good rules, the right rules. Now the sense object cease to exist for him who does not enjoy them with his senses. That's exactly what he's saying. When he's saying the tortoise example, he's saying the sense objects cease to exist. Means I'm just a seer. I'm a seer of what my eyes are seeing, I'm seeing that. What my ears are hearing, I'm seeing that. What I'm touching, I'm seeing that. But I don't get attached to it. Imagine, it's a very simple example. Imagine you want to eat. I don't know why I'm getting all eating things today, because maybe someone wants to eat things. So imagine, let's say someone wants to eat, a cake. A cake is in front of you. You are almost going to eat it and someone takes it away from you. What happens in that 5 seconds? Almost in your mouth, and then someone take it, eat it. What happens in those 2 seconds? That is what is in your mind actually. It's only you and the cake. For a few seconds, it's only you and the cake, and it has to go inside. That is you attached to your senses. If you're eating the cake, someone takes it, okay, then you're not attached to your senses. It doesn't mean you don't have to eat the cake. It just means if it's there, okay. If it's not there, it's also okay. That's it. It's not too complex, huh? It's very easy. Hard to do, but easy to understand. I'm not saying it's easy to do, it's hard to do, but easy to understand. At least you know what to do. Best thing is, biggest blessings are that now you know what you have to do. Till now, everybody has been teaching you wrong spirituality. Now you know what is the right thing to do, then you can start putting efforts. 50% job is done. Imagine you have to go from point A to point B. Someone tells you go left, right, left, right, left, right, and then turn around, go swirl, 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 and then go back. And then you keep doing that. Half of the people follow, half don't follow, half rest in the middle. They never reach point B. At least when you know there's a straight line, half job is done. Then the next job is there is no point B. You were already on point B. A and B are same. That's the next journey. So sense objects cease to exist. This relish also disappears for a man of a stable mind when he realizes the supreme. Realizes the supreme means he realizes that he himself is the creator, destroyer, and maintainer. You yourself are everything. You create your destiny. You are the one who destroys it, and you're the one who has right to maintain it. You are everything. Then what next Krishna is saying? The turbulent senses, O son of Kunti, forcibly sway the mind of even a wise man who practices self control. Even a wise man who is practicing self control, these senses are so strong, they even turbulate the mind of wisest people. If you know many rishis and munis, they also tried this, controlling their body, mind, senses. But it is so hard. We are so ordinary people living in ordinary life. Do you know if you live in an ashram for 300 years, that person getting enlightenment and a person in grihast ashram satisfied, enjoyed all the bhog is faster. He can get in 10 years in grihast ashram. But a person in ashram, very tough. Very tough. Because there he has not enjoyed any worldly pleasures. He is taught wrong things, that you have to leave luxury, you have to leave pleasure. Imagine if I tell you, let's talk like this practically. I only tell practical things. If I tell you, don't open this door, there's a door in front of you. I tell you, don't open this door. What do you think about? I give you all the toys, all the books, laptop, internet, reels, everything is there. But what constantly will be in your head? Don't open it. What's behind this door? What's behind this door? What's behind this door? This is what you keep thinking, right? Same is the case when you come into ashram, all these places. They tell you, don't, money is wrong, luxury is wrong, pleasure is wrong. Constantly you're thinking about those things only. You will never get out. You know who will get out? A person married for 20, 30 years, have enjoyed all the luxuries. He's faster to get out because he has enjoyed all those things. He knows they mean nothing. He opened the door, he saw there's nothing behind the door. That is why it's very important. Having control all the senses, a striver should engage in meditation, devoting himself heart and soul to me. His wisdom is stable, whose senses are under control. Once you become Sakshi, once you become a seer of yourself, currently you are a seer of this world. You know, you can actually intuitively judge people also. Many people can also find out what others are thinking, predicting, but they know most of the times. I know what he's thinking. I'm not getting good vibes from this person. You're already intuitive about all these things. So you are seeing the world, but you never see yourself. Once you start seeing yourself, all this becomes simply a game to you. He's saying, controlling senses and mind stable in me. Me as in yourself, soul, Atma. Contemplating constantly on the object of senses, a man develops attachment for them, From attachment spring desires, from desire originates anger, anger arises delusion, and delusion creates confusion of the memory, which grows loss of reason. With loss of reason, he goes complete ruin. Complete cycle he is explaining. Krishna is saying, more you focus on what these senses are desiring. So, most importantly, your tongue is the most important thing. What you talk and eat, these are the two things this tongue does: talking and eating. Both of the things done excessively is wrong. Less talking, less eating, or moderate, not less, balanced. Whatever is required for this body, only that much. So, the more you constantly think about what your senses want, even sexually desires or physical desires, all of the thing, if you keep thinking about them, you get attached to them. Once you get attached to them, then you have constant desire for them. Like, I want to have a good girl, I want to have good, physical relationship with her. You constantly keep thinking. Then if you don't get that desire, you get angry. Then when you get angry, you become delusional. Maya takes over you. Delusional, and then confusion comes over. You don't know what is right, what is wrong. When anger and desire corrupts this mind, you forget what is right, what is wrong. I give very simple example. If your son steals $100 from your purse, you will slap him and you will throw him away. Or some parents will be like, oh, so what? So what? You know, you would have asked me instead. Some parents like this. But if your neighbor's son would have done the same thing, what you would have done? What reaction would be? That is attachment. That is delusional mind. My son, so things will change. His son, things will change. That is delusion. After this, Krishna says, but a self controlled yogi, he's telling the quality of an enlightened soul who is self controlled in practice, or a striver, while using objects with senses which are controlled and freed from attraction and aversion, he attains placidity of the mind. With attainment of such placidity, all his sorrows come to an end. I've always shared this before as well. Sorrow and happiness both are a state of mind. That's it. If things around you are going your way, then you are happy. If things around you are not going your way, you are unhappy. If you want to burn a building and building is burning, you are happy. If that building is yours and you don't want to burn it, you are unhappy. It's that simple. So a self-controlled yogi is always controlled of this, his attractions, and is free from sorrows. Intellect of a such person is tranquil mind, soon becomes firmly established in God. So we have realized the first problem is attachment, second problem is desire. Yeah, both of them the enlightened soul is free of. He who has not controlled his mind and senses can have no determinate intellect, nor can such undisciplined man have a sense of duty. Means dharma he cannot follow because he doesn't know what is right and wrong. Once you don't remember what is right and wrong, you make mistakes. A man without having sense of duty can have no peace. You need to be first self-content, then you can do that. Just as the wind sails a ship on water, the mind that yields to one of the wandering senses takes away the discrimination of the man. The biggest problem of all of us is the same. We are controlled by our senses. If right now you are sitting like this, sitting with me, stay focused, okay? Something comes from left or your right, what you will do immediately? Like this? Immediately, right? You will do it. Who told you to do that? Who told you? Mind. Immediately, your mind told you and you did it. So controlled you are. No thinking, no pause in the middle. What if you don't want to look? Then what? Then what? Immediately phone is there and notification. Ah, what's message? You see and reply. Yeah, you do that, right? You are slave of your senses. That's what it is. Slave of your senses. This is what you're doing all day. That is why you don't have energy. You're drained. Because whatever these things tell you, you do it. I'm feeling very hungry right now. Let's go somewhere out. You know, who's feeling hungry? Always take an apple test. I tell this to people. If you're feeling hungry, will you eat an apple? Mostly when people say no, then you are not actually feeling hungry. That is just your mind cheating you. You know, you want to, I want to eat something nice, something, sweet, something this. Do the apple test. Are you actually feeling hungry? You can eat an apple also. Most of the times, it's just you are controlled by your senses. If you eat, for example, every day you eat at 9 p.m. Next day you eat at 8 p.m. But then 9 p.m. again you will feel hungry because the habit of eating at 9 p.m. That's the body giving you wrong things. Mind, senses, all controlling you. This is what an enlightened soul is. He's not governed by this. He thinks separate. He knows what is right, what is wrong. When someone is coming like this, he doesn't immediately go like this. Okay? He knows if it's required, then only he will do it. You'll be like, oh, phone. Yeah, okay. Put it back. Hmm? You all have like notifications coming every 2 minutes. Now, unnecessary applications you all have. So many notifications. Therefore, O mighty armed, his intellect is stable, whose senses are completely controlled against the sense objects. Meaning, he has completely control over his senses. Mind and senses, there is a link. They're attached. Senses tell something to mind, mind follows. Mind tells intellect, oh, I need this, give me food. Okay, start doing it, start working towards it. Okay. In the middle, you are the owner. You are the owner, but you left it. A house where servants are owners, what happens? Tell me. If you have a house where there's so many servants and they are the owner, and the owner is sitting like this, I don't know what to do. Confused. This is our story. We are the owner of the house, but we are sitting one place, and the servants are controlling everything. Servants are your senses. They were supposed to listen to you, but you lost the command. The more reels you swipe, the more servant have control. Have a break in a day, 30 minutes, or every hour take 2 minutes out. Every hour take 2 minutes out. That 2 minutes, do nothing. I'm saying do nothing. I'm not saying you have to meditate or anything, just do nothing. Sit like this, do nothing, get bored. I think it's time people should start getting bored. So we're closing this chapter now. That which is night to all beings in that state, an emancipated person keeps awake, who has attained the divine bliss, and that in which all beings keep awake in night. This is also most misunderstood shlok. Here Krishna is saying, I'll tell you because I know people who misunderstand this. Here Krishna is saying, when normal people wake up, the enlightened soul sleeps, and when normal people sleep, enlightened soul wake up. So what people understand is, at night enlightened soul is up, and in morning enlightened soul is sleeping. So this is very misunderstood. What actually he means is, when a normal person available for the sansar, for people around the world, he is toward, for example, going to parties, clubs, discos, all these things. An enlightened soul look away. He's not interested. But in terms of spirituality, going inward, a normal person doesn't do. There an enlightened soul is awake. That is what it means. What we think is, oh, when normal people sleeping, enlightened soul is up. So this is misunderstood shloks. These are all metaphors he's saying. Just as the waters of different rivers enter the ocean, which through full remains undisturbed, likewise the man in whom the all enjoyments are merged and attains tranquility, but not to be hankers after such enjoyment. Beautiful line. Just like all different water from different rivers merge into ocean, but nothing changes in ocean. Different flavors, different salts, different qualities of the water, they merge in the ocean, but ocean remains the same. Same, an enlightened man enjoying different things, consuming different things, on the inside remains the same. That is where Raja Janak is the biggest example. He was a king and detached from body. That's why he was called Videhi Raja. He's father of Sita, Sita Ma. He used to be said in the kingdom with the pleasures, with people dancing in front of him, so much money, so much luxury, so many wives, so many kids. Still, he was enlightened. All that is outside, he doesn't let it go in. Inside remains unchanged. Like all the rivers merge into ocean, ocean remains the same. He who gives up all desires moves about without the sense of mind and egoism and shuns the thirst of necessities of life. Thirst of necessities, very important. We say, I need 2 lakh rupees a month. Let's say my expenses is 2 lakh rupees a month. Are your actual expenses 2 lakh rupees a month? Or you want them? Or you think your necessities are this expensive? What we do is we keep expanding our needs. What you need? One bed to sleep, one bathroom, one small area where you can do your things. Now internet and phone is enough, I think, for 99% people. They don't even need food. They need internet and phone. That's enough. Rest all is just excessive things that you have planned for yourself. It doesn't mean you should not enjoy, but you should stop the thirst for these unnecessary things. Thirst. So today we have covered all the qualities of the enlightened soul. Krishna is saying, O Parth, such is the state of God realized soul. Such is a state of God realized soul. Having attained this state, he overcome delusion, the Maya. Being established in this state, even at the hour of death, he attains Brahmic bliss. Means he never comes back again. Brahmic bliss means he, even when he's dying, he's not fear. We are in always fear.